What are we? Magic round done and dusted in the books. Some of the highest scores I've seen since 2021. And some real pods firing, which is exciting. Everybody's buying Fletcher Sharp this week. And it just goes to show if you get that big score early before everybody else jumps on, it can really, really boost you up the ranks. So this week, round 10, lots and lots of Roosters on the bye. Connor Watson, is he a trade out going to Origin? Sandon Smith with a 0. If you played him like me after missing out on the 130, tough luck to you. But hopefully this week we can crack on and get some really interesting options and some good scores out of that. So we're going to look at that hooker position now. A bit of a dangerous one. It's kind of a little bit of a no-no in the Supercoach community to play around with cheapy hookers because it's just not the position for it. But that's what we're here for, daring to be different at hooker this week. So I want to bring up one Jazz Tavanga. Now, there's a little bit of history behind Jazz Tavanga at lock. He scores pretty well in pretty solid minutes. The thinking behind that is that Gerbo's finally starting to not play 80 minutes. He missed the other week, but before that, he was starting to go 70 minutes, 60 minutes. And Paseka's gone with a pec injury, simply suspended. Aloye is still out with the shoulder, and they've looked to actually trust Tavanga with the lock position, which is pretty rare to push Gerbo out of that. Yes, Gerbo will still pretty much do the exact, like the soft 80-minute prop role, but I doubt he'll play that 80 minutes. And at least for a little while, Tavanga is going to get good minutes and good scores at hooker with the second row forward duel as well. And if we're lucky, he'll stay there for the future and beyond. The Seagulls do like to run a two hooker team, and not a lot of these guys are standing up and taking a lot of minutes other than Gerbo. So Jazz looks to be the guy that they're relying on a little bit if they're trusting him with this role. The only thing I can see going real wrong with it is that they've just got so many props out that they decided to throw Gerbo in to fix that and play Jazz there instead. But if it ends up working out, Jazz Tavanga, brilliant schedule, plays all three major buys with round 12, round 15, round 18, low break even. Will score, I'd imagine, sort of a 50, 55-ish at lock. I think he scored back-to-back. Oh, there you go. Back-to-back 63s at high minutes at lock. I don't expect 70 minutes a game. I just don't, especially if there's no injuries and things like that. But if we can get a solid 50 for some of those bye weeks at hooker at a discount price, making a little bit of money as well before maybe he drops out of the team at some point. But I think there's a lot of positives to come out of Jazz Tavanga as a pick at hooker. The other guy isn't a buy this week, but he's one to absolutely watch like a hawk because we now have very interesting news coming out of Roosters camp that Brandon Smith is going to join the South Sydney Rabbitohs effective pretty much immediately. And that is very important for somebody like Dockett Clay, considering the Roosters also play the three major buys. Connor Watson will almost certainly play Origin, you'd expect. And the rounds that the Roosters are on bye are the non-minor bye rounds. So the round 14, where you've got all teams except the Roosters playing, and round 17. So essentially, all 6 of the weeks that Docker Clay will be playing over the Origin period are going to either be no Connor Watson or Connor Watson backing up from Origin. And at 313k, starting hooker for those rounds, now that Cheese is gone, I really like that quite a lot. Probably more than Jazz, to be honest. Nice, quite safe. We saw 80 minutes, 71 points, close to 80, with Connor Watson going to the halves with Sandon Smith getting his HIA last week, we can see that he can score well and do excellent, rack up a lot of tackles, a lot of base at hooker when needed. So out of those two, I'm probably leaning Docker Clay, but for my team, who has Sandon Smith and Connor Watson at hooker, that's a bit of a rough one. Maybe I wait on that trade and do a really early VC and maybe loop with them to see if that's a way I can get around that issue and buy Docker Clay next week, something like that. But yeah, I quite like both of those options. But now moving on from hooker, a lot of us probably have Jacob Preston suspended for 4 weeks now for that crusher tackle, given his prior history. Tried to fight it to get rid of it, but Skilsey got that extra week. Now, Kai Paul isn't really much of a cut price anything. He's a very solid scorer, though. Plays a lot of rounds in a row, all until round 18. And his base is really, really large. He's tackling and running his way to 60 after 60. And if he gets any attack whatsoever, he pushes well up from that mark. That 46 was also the game he got a bin and didn't play the full game. So I can forgive that 46 with a try assist in there. So Kai Paul plays some really nice teams coming up, as do the rest of the Knights. Titans this week, Para next, depleted Penrith in round 12, Dragons, Manly, depleted Roosters. It's just a really nice look for pretty much all of these Knights. That's why we're buying the Fletcher Sharps, the Greg Marges, the Dylan Lucases, the pretty much just load up on Knights at this point because there's great schedule and good matchups. So I quite like him as a one-for-one, like-for-like replacement for Jacob Preston this week. If you don't need a Jacob Preston or an edge or something, I'm going to come back to Dane Gagai. So I flagged him a little bit last week. Fletcher Sharp was the one that took off and scored a hattie last week. And sometimes you're just going to hit those. It's great when you do, but do be wary of pods and really think that make sure that you think they are a good, strong option. Because sometimes you'll hit a Fletcher Sharp and you get 130, or you'll hit a Mulatalo and you'll get 30. But yeah, I think Mulatalo will come good eventually, especially when he's in the midst of the tries. But Dane Gagai will sit on for now. Finally, the Knights are getting some attack. And even though he didn't really do tons, he got a line break, put some tackle breaks in, and did a bit more running than he has been recently. So 32 points just for the running, and yeah, not 5 errors like that game. I think that Dane Gagai is just somebody who will score a lot better than they are priced for the rest of the year. Will he be in the elite tier? I don't know. I don't think he'll quite get there. But when he's priced in the sort of low 50s range and he was averaging, what was it, 70 last year? Something like that. It was 71. So when he's priced 15 points under what he is last year and the Knights finally looked like they might get some attack, albeit against the Rabbitohs, if the Knights can actually do something and move out of 17th place in points scored, players like Dane Gagai are going to benefit. I really like Sharp. I really like Dane Gagai moving forwards. I like Dylan Lucas, Greg Marzu should get tries if Bradman Best can pass him the ball. There's just a lot of things to like. Somebody else who's discounted after not doing a ton this year on that right centre spot is one Jesse Ramian. Now, I didn't talk about him too much last week, but again, similar reasons to Dane Gagai. Goes quite big when he actually scores tries and gets attack. But is the role there for him? Is Nikora just stealing all the ball instead of cutting out Nikora and going to Ramian? Are they just going to go straight to the super speed boy, Stone Street, or through the line with Nickera. That's the only real worry with Ramian because he does fluctuate up and down. And last year he averaged, again, about not quite as much as for Gagai, but a good 10 points above where he's valued at the moment. And he got as high as 670k. So I quite like Ramian, especially heading into this origin period. But yeah, Storm matchup is a little bit of a worry. So I'd probably prefer Gagai to Ramian, but I do want to point Ramian out because he's the kind of guy who will sort of make 120k, 130k from a particular price point at some point pretty much every year. And I think just about now is that turnaround point. He actually made a tiny bit last week. I think Ramian, I don't know if he's a strong buy, but he could be one that takes off pretty shortly. Just a short one this week. A few straightforward options and a few spicy options. This one's probably a bit more, I guess, less strategic and more read the room or hopeful guesses. So we've seen what the Penrith Panthers can do in recent years, bringing up guys like, well, all of them pretty much. Spencer Lenius, the Liam Henrys, the Moses Bears, the big boppers who've just got an enormous engine to come on and do massive damage, and then move into a bigger role as the Panthers and other teams realise they're a really good player. He's got an incredible first name. His full first name is about 15 letters long, if I'm not mistaken. Might be a relative of him, but I think it is him. But yeah, minus 17 break even, and he scored 75 in about 3 minutes. To be honest, it was a really, really damaging wrecking ball type performance. 75 in 28 minutes. He looked so strong. Just took 4 blokes over the line with him and just kept wriggling and moving. And using his brute strength to get that ball down for that try. I really like his chances of staying in that team after a performance like that. Yeah, he might be a little dodgy as an auto emergency guy, but what if he turns into Liam Henry? Would you like to get on early at a base price, essentially? Only thing stopping that is dual. If he had dual front row forward, second row forward, I would put him in my team in a heartbeat if I needed enough, because odds are he'll make money and then he'll possibly disappear. And if he doesn't disappear, well, you sell him. So almost all scenarios would have been covered if he had that dual. And as it stands, he's riskier than going it prop enough with the dual, but he also stands to make some money and maybe a lot. So who knows? I don't guarantee that he's going to make 200k, but we've seen Panthers forwards do it before, and this bloke looks a real goer for the future. So that'll do for us this week. Bit of a short one, but yeah, only so much you can do when every other person is scoring 100 in Magic Round. Look forward to the origin period as you're coming up. That's why guys like Pierce, Paul, Gagai, Ramian, Dr. Clay, Justin Bong are featuring so heavily because we're starting to prepare that round 12, even round 15 planning, where we need a good 13 on the park and the best, I think it's the best 13 out of 17, 18 this year plays and scores for you. So if you manage to hit the good ones and have some low ownership guys in there, you might really benefit from that. So let me know down in the comments if you're going to run the gauntlet and do some interesting things at hooker this week. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow the socials. We're on X, we're on Discord. Make sure to join the SuperCoach Hub Discord. Lots and lots of really experienced super coaches in there. Lots of discussion of heaps of different options, and make sure to check out the other podcasts like Captain Hindsight and the weekly TLT podcast. So for this week, scoop out and have fun with those fun buys.